basic head bob. Ready, go.
Are we unbroken now? Oh, there we go. All right, 131 Bread Show with you here on actually a pretty nice Wednesday afternoon here in the capital city. Kind of surprised. I was expecting, rock concert, bone chilling. I've kind of, I don't know, given up on outdoors, I think, for the next 6 months. But kind of nice. I have to get out after the show. All right, phone number is 244-0077. Email address, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Or just follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. The Wi-Fi in here will cause me to self-harm. Fair warning. I believe we have found the definition of a slow news day. Or is this just a relic of understaffed newsrooms? But everyone and their mother is talking about, like there's nothing big to talk about, or the big things to talk about no one wants to. When of all things, everything seems to be focused on the date today. Yes, thanks to Sesame Street, today's...
it's probably brought to you by the number 12.
Yeah.
And the 12th letter in the alphabet is...
I think
it's like H.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I don't know. I'm spending too much time reading, articles on right-wing websites. I thought 8 was H.
L.
Yeah. And there's... Never mind. I don't want to get into how I know that. Someone asked Frank Minkin. It still pops up. It boggles my mind.
Yeah, I should have known that because 81 is Hell's Angels, which is 8-1, eighth letter and first letter.
This is, and maybe we'll get into this later when we have a new estimate when you and I will be the minority in this country. Spoiler alert, that date keeps moving closer and closer. But inevitably, and today is a fine example of this, go to a right-wing site like today. The Drudge Report has a bunch of N-bombs on the front page. But you go to these, conservative sites, and, whether it's a Fox Nation article about Michelle Obama, if you read enough in the articles, at some point, 8 or 14 words or, these kind of racist cohort get tossed out. Like, people talk around it, all sorts of fun euphemisms. At some point, someone who's not in on the secret handshake just starts letting it fly, and the whole facade comes down. But it's entirely too often. Let's talk about this yesterday. I just need to stop reading right-wing articles with comment sections before dinner. That or starve away. Because there's really no in between. We have a bit of a race problem in this country still. All right. It's at 244-0077 email. radiobradshaw@gmail.com. I think everyone's talking about
I don't know what you're talking about. There's huge news.
Well, that's the thing. There is, real news.
I mean, Lindsay Lohan's probation was revoked this morning in court.
Not what I was talking about. I have to admit, I did kind of do that lifted eyebrow thing. Did you see North Korea allegedly lifted something into orbit, and it didn't explode halfway there? Juche in space. Again, much in the same way we don't talk about, our space program as a test vehicle for, intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's what's going on over there. So that, I guess, should be news. Last night we had to reset the "it's too soon to talk about" clock again. Another mass shooting this time in Oregon, Clackamas, Oregon, outside of Portland. Jacob Roberts, 22, finally been identified. Killed 2 people, wounded a third before turning on himself. In this case, apparently yesterday, someone was a happy gun lender as they had their AR-15 stolen that this kid took to the mall and started shooting. I don't know who said the difference between gun rights and workers' rights is that there are actually people working to undermine workers' rights and women's rights in this country. I know, again, the first response, too soon to talk about it. No offense, but if we wait, whatever predetermined period after gun violence, we're never going to get there. Again, forget the 30,000 gun deaths in this country. Can you imagine what would happen if some outside force killed 30,000 Americans? Can you imagine what our response would be? Something horrific. But that kind of gets looked past every year. And I don't have the answer. I'm not... there are people who spend their whole lives studying this sort of thing. So I'll leave it to the sociologists and the criminologists and the like. But I do think, 2 weeks ago when we had the last mass shooting, there's a reason that first kind of instinctual, we couldn't talk about this. We shouldn't politicize it, is another one of my favorites. Well, how else do we decide things in this country? Pistols at dawn? Politics is our chosen realm on how to decide these issues. We do politicize things. And by the way, saying, don't talk about it, don't politicize it, is certainly what. Let's just sweep this under the rug because I don't want to have an inconvenient conversation. So we should politicize these issues. That's what we do. That is how a civilized society, right, deals with its differences. We don't all agree. The political process. And talked about how, the NRA really is a paper tiger when it comes to, elections. I think it was something silly, like only 1 in 6 NRA endorsees won by less than 55%. They'll obviously endorse whoever goes against, Barbara Boxer or something, and they'll always lose that one. But where they run up the score, when the NRA representative comes to, Boswell's office, hello, good sir, let me show you our report card. Look at that winning percentage. Yeah? They do it by running up the score, by endorsing these incredibly safe, Republican districts, where 5 out of the 6 are a blowout or uncontested, and they say, look at what we don't offend us. And it turns out they have very little effect when it comes. And they have a very effective marketing arm. They have a very effective fundraising arm. Their particular brand of paranoia fits in very well with the modern GOP. Slogan should be, look, if you're not scared, we're not doing it right. And again, whether you're supposed to be scared of, illegals, there's that church down in Texas that is offering weapons training to stem the tide of illegals. A church. To the new Black Panther phenomenon. I did get a kick because you knew it was going to happen on Election Day. Yes, Fox News was on a search for new Black Panthers, and they actually found one. Did you hear that? There was he was greeting people and holding the door for old ladies, but Fox would still cut to him every 50 minutes, like, "What's that guy doing out there? He looks, I don't know, awfully black to be standing there."
Very intimidating.
Megyn Kelly, you better get in on this.
Intimidated me. I didn't even vote because I was so intimidated.
By a Black Panther in Philadelphia. But,
Yep.
But that brand of paranoia and conspiracy theories, where 49% of Republicans believe, even in 2012, that Acorn helped steal the election. An organization that hasn't existed since 2010 is so powerful they can steal the election in 2012. The NRA is a absolute perfect fit. Now, even though, if anything, President Obama has expanded gun rights. So for those of you who need your AR-15 in a national forest, you're welcome. We built that. The NRA, not to let success go to their head, is now running around saying that, now because he didn't do anything in his first term, it's just a setup to get you in the second. He's going to get you now. Just a slight variation on all the, Obama's going to take all your guns, so you better buy them now and get all the ammo you can, that we went through in the fall of 2008. They keep falling for it because gun sales, ammo sales, contributions to the NRA, which is what it's really about. We have a gun problem in this country. We have a gun culture in this country that we should talk about. And if you wait for the right time, it's never going to come. It's like having kids. You wait for the right time to have kids, it's never going to happen. We got to wait for the right time. We got to wait for the right time. There's no such thing. You just do it. For example, and we don't know I don't know the whole story behind this guy that had his AR-15 stolen. Apparently, he was an acquaintance of Jacob Roberts, the murderer. Did he have the thing just sitting on a shelf? Can you fit an AR-15 in your sock drawer?
Depends on what model.
Next to the Playboys and all those other things that kids will never find if we put it here.
Still depends on what model.
But what now? You're a gun guy. Would you support, if it's proven, it's one thing to have your gun stolen, but it's another because I leave it on my couch or I leave it propped up against the bedroom door.
Yeah.
Should that be a crime? Would you be okay with that?
No, I don't think it should be a crime.
If you're negligent with the handling and just leave it out where anyone could pick it up and walk out your door. It's one thing if someone picks your safe. If you have a safe, that should be automatic insulation. You say you keep your guns.
Yeah, my guns are in a safe.
Locked up. But if someone just, is known to have one under the mattress, someone steals it and commits a crime.
Well, there's a couple problems with that scenario, which maybe I would agree with you that there should be some kind of repercussion available. Nobody should know where you have your guns. That's part of putting them away.
Considering this guy had his gun stolen, that he obviously fails in that regard.
He obviously fails. How he fails is a different subject. Now, if somebody
the whole thing I'm talking
searched his house, found his gun, took it, and left, I don't have a problem with that. Now, if he was bragging, showed his friend where he hid it, showed him where the ammunition was for it, now we have some irresponsibility.
Stuff like that, because I don't know what percentage of guns in this country are.
Here's a scenario that happened to me this weekend. Is I came over to my dad's house. My family's all gun guys, and my brother-in-law had his handgun sitting out on a banister, kid height, in a holster. And I said, "Hey, can you put that away?" Same question went through my head, and he said, "Well, it's unloaded." I said, "I don't really care. I have kids coming in the house right now, and I don't really want your gun there." And it caused a huge fight. very sensitive guy. He thought I was being a jerk to him because I wanted him to put his gun in.
Because please don't leave your gun at children height.
Yeah, to me it sounds ridiculous. To you it sounds ridiculous. To this guy, it sounded like I was violating his Second Amendment rights.
Well, and that's part of the problem is.
So I mean, there's people on all sides of this that are all kinds of crazy.
Now, again, I'm no Freud, but you have to think the person, and not all gun owners are like this, but a paranoid person who believes that the world is out to get them is more likely to have a gun than a non-gun owner. It's like not all crazy people or not all gun owners are crazy people, but all crazy people seem to be gun owners.
Yeah, I would say that there's probably propensity to have all kinds of weird stuff.
If you're afraid of the world and you see, injustice headed your way at all corners, it just seems like, a natural thing. And we have, literally hundreds of millions of guns in this country. It may be things like mandatory, trigger locks. So you have to, you could steal his AR-15, but you'd also have to steal the key, which you'd hope would be, on him or hidden somewhere different or put away, locked behind something. But just, the same way, like if you were to shoot someone, you have a permit. If generic bad guy was going to jump around a corner and say your money or your life, all right, and you shot him in the chest and you offed, there would be an investigation. Like, do the facts fit your story? Okay, was he standing there? Okay, then yeah, And if it's legit, you walk. In a case like this, maybe we should investigate, the guy who got his gun stolen. Was he being negligent?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've had a gun stolen, though. So
Where was it?
It was in the back of my locked pickup truck.
And
somebody, it had a rubber tawny cover, and they jimmied it up and got it out.
Oh, in one of those cases in the back?
I stopped at work. I was getting ready to go hunting, and I had to stop at work for an hour, and I didn't have time to go back home and get all my hunting stuff. So
did someone know that it was in there, or do you think?
No, I think they were just looking to see what was in the rear section of the truck, and found a Benelli shotgun.
Yeah, and I don't know if should be actionable. We could talk about where the lines should be. Probably not.
Well, and see the difference there.
If it had been sitting in your passenger, side seat.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's a very clear difference between those two.
No, it was hidden under hunting gear, and it was the ammunition was separate, and it was locked in the cab. I don't keep my guns and ammunition in the same place.
See, just if you're going to exercise your Second Amendment rights, as they are defined as of now, there should be some responsibilities with that. Like you're with me, like the criminal penalty for the misuse of a gun, right? If we're going to put the gun on this Second Amendment pedestal, the misuse, waving it at a cashier's face, or should be so over the top, draconian, old school. The Torquemada looks at our punishment and goes, whoa, guys, you maybe need to hold off on that a little bit. Would you be okay with that?
Say that again.
The punishment for the misuse of guns should be so over the top severe because we put guns on that pedestal.
Well, gun laws are pretty severe. I mean, if you can have a minor infraction, and if the law enforcement officer, the LFO, if they cite you for that, usually you lose your gun rights, which is pretty severe.
I'm saying you go away for 70 years.
Well,
that's the over the top.
That depends on the infraction, because at some point you're just restricting people. You're not.
No, I'm saying you wave a gun in a cashier's face because you're gonna use a gun to rob a liquor store.
I think that's fair. I think anytime you introduce a gun in a situation and you're in a criminal way, there should be pretty severe consequences.
Or one of my favorites, and something that kind of comes in waves in Des Moines, is I'm going to do a drive-by shooting, or in one case, a bicycle by shooting. I'm just going to shoot up your house. If they find that you've done that, oh, all right, 70 years. Even the dumbest, I think, would think twice before committing a premeditated act like that. Again, it's hard to knife up. It's hard, you can't do a drive-by knifing. Drive-by, spork. So again, these are the discussion we should have. I'm not claiming to have all the answers here. And maybe we should talk about, what exactly the Second Amendment says. Let's look at the entirety.
Well, not only what it says, but what was the thought behind it. I think that's a lot of people want to interpret it word for word, and you can't really interpret any ancient text or older text word for word. You have to look at the intent behind the writing because the language just simply changed.
Well, if the thought behind it was to stand up against the federal government, well, that point's pretty much moot. They can carpet bomb you, and your 9mm isn't going to do much good. They'll bring in an armored personnel carrier.
What are the likelihoods of the government bringing the full force of its military against us?
Very low, but we're arguing that if the point, and I've heard this argued before, I'm pretty sure it's in NRA literature, to stand up against a tyrannical government.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, do you think you could take down SEAL Team 6 with what's in your gun safe?
I think actually that our military is very arrogant at what their capabilities are, and I think that they would be surprised at how poorly they would do, because we're talking about sheer numbers, and as long as we, the people, still have sheer numbers, I think there's hope.
Correct. So you'll get Fallujah, which just means we'll just bomb the area into submission.
See, and I don't think they would do that to the.
They have stealth bombers,
but they're not gonna unleash that on their own.
If the government is potent enough that you feel the need to take up arms against it, which has happened, didn't go very well for the folks down south.
Yeah, but see, again, what would happen in that scenario, though, Bradshaw, is that, first of all, if the people rose up against government, they would probably rise up in such a way that they would take over bases that had some of that equipment so that they would also have that equipment.
I could take over the Air National Guard at the airport. I'm probably not going to be able to fly.
Well, but see, that just shows you.
I've played Microsoft Flight Sim.
I understand.
I've seen snakes on a plane.
This is first of all, I don't think this way. This isn't me.
I don't think I could figure.
But I'm saying that I think there's mass numbers. I don't think we could count on all of our army to. I don't think we can count on any of our army actually to carpet bomb the United States. I don't think people would do it.
Ask General Sherman.
I don't think they would do it.
Are you familiar with Sherman's March to the Sea?
Yeah, I am, but I'm not worried about that.
He didn't celebrate. He wasn't doing cartwheels. He just understood that it was necessary at the time. So war is hell, and I'm going to unleash hell.
Yeah, but I don't think we have that same grit today. I don't think that's something we're going to do. I don't believe the American military. Every soldier I've ever talked to, when I asked them, if you were ordered to take my guns, what would you do? Every single one of them said, I wouldn't. I mean, I'm not worried. I'm not afraid of our military because I think our military
you're not talking about right now.
Made up of patriots.
I don't think it's anything that we would foresee. You do stuff like that for the unforeseen, the stuff that you wouldn't think of. It's the reason the military currently, somewhere in a file, has a plan to invade Canada.
I'm sure.
And, quell the
I would love to see
population.
A successful plan to disarm the American public. I don't think you could do it.
There are certainly ways to make it harder to get guns. The gun show loophole, for example, should be a no-brainer.
Well, seeing this gun show loophole, I've never bought or sold a gun at a gun show that wasn't with a dealer. I mean, I've never just met somebody in the trunk and bought out of the trunk of their car, nor have I been okay doing that. Now, I've sold a gun at the gun show, and I bought a gun at gun show, but it was always with the dealer, and there's always paperwork involved.
Yeah, but there are ways to get around it.
Well, you can buy guns private sale.
Ceremonial guns.
Theoretically, but ceremonial guns,
Yeah, those muskets. And
those are muskets. If you're coming out with me with a musket, you better hit me the first shot.
With that, yeah.
Because I got 6 to your 1.
Yeah, but yours are in a safe because you're a responsible gun owner and they've got a musket aimed.
You don't know where my safe is, though. And that's the beauty of
it's disguised as a kegerator at the side of your couch.
No, I have a fingerprint safe in my bedroom where my handgun sits, and I have a big safe in the basement.
But I'm just saying, this talk is at least in the political sense, verboten. Just
now you know where my guns are.
I don't care.
But now all these people know.
I keep my lightsaber.
I could be lying.
It's sitting up next to the door, so I can quickly get to
I just want to see that
chasing the dogs.
Yeah.
I said I have a... And, of course, now that I've told people the fantasy, so if it ever were to actually happen, no one would believe me. But I want to chase off a burglar with a lightsaber because I think that would be the greatest feeling on the face of the earth.
I think it'd be pretty funny.
Fire that bad boy up and see someone scurry.
That would be pretty funny.
Hey, I saw this yesterday. The number 7, and this is in Britain, but the 7th largest religion in Britain is?
What's that?
Jedi. We've made the top 10. Out of the countless numbers of religions that have existed in the history of mankind, we're number 7. Sort of. Hey, my story's as good as your story, except for the prequels. Which, again, a lot of Christians don't care for the prequel of the Bible. But you know what? Let's not get into that. Another time, another place. All right, 244-0077. Email radiobradshaw@gmail.com. And follow me on Twitter. Twitter.com/RadioBradshaw. Just go to thebradshaw.com. It's got show archives, contact info. It is all there. When we come back, talk a little bit about the fallout from what's going on in Michigan. We're going to be paying the price for 2010 for a long time. A little more on what's going on as we quickly ride towards the fiscal cliff, and exactly how big of a drop would that be? And the Republicans have a bit of a brand problem. Again, I've been saying this for like 4 years now. It's nice to see, in this case, Politico, Tiger Beat on the Potomac, finally picking up on some of this. We'll talk about that and more when we return here on The Bradshaw Show on Webcast One Live. Thanks for watching. Back right after this.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative mmanager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money-back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave, and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's time to start.
Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
All right, 201. Hi, how you doing? My name's Bradshaw. I'm a Leo. I like long walks on the beach, Star Wars marathons.
Mumbler.
Hygiene. Not a mumbler.
You can't hear you at all.
What? Oh.
Talk on the microphone.
I'm being seductive. Hi. How are you? It's hump day after all. So there you go. All right, Ron. Welcome. What can I do for you today? Is this thing working? There we go.
Today, Bradshaw, in the event of an armed insurrection in this country, the government, I think, actually has the right to do whatever necessary to crush it. You can't have people launch armed insurrection when there's still a democratic order to resolve problems. And you know what? In the Civil War, in the beginning of the war, the federal government did not have the grit to deal with the problem at hand. But you know what? After Bull Run and other battles, they got that grit together.
Well, you know, after the Arab Spring, and certainly Egypt, you know, for example, has a modern day standing army. It wasn't guns that won that conflict, and it certainly wasn't handguns, hunting rifles that carried the day in Libya. So, if you know the justification. Because this is something that doesn't get talked about. You know, they say the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. All right, we already know that's not a literal truth. You know, the mentally disturbed, felons, children can't buy arms, and we already we already limit.
Hold on, the mentally ill can't buy arms.
But we already know that there are limits, you know, to keep and bear arms as far as what you can purchase. For example, I might want an MX missile, and I might be able to put together a plausible case where it would be helpful in defending my home. But it's still a no-no. So we already agree. Again, we don't always agree where those limits should be. Ask the Republicans in Iowa who wanted to pass the Give a Schizophrenic a Gun bill. Their words, not mine. And there are people who believe that you should buy any sort of, you know, machine gun you can get your hands on. But now, if we're saying, but hold on, if the justification for the Second Amendment and just the freedom of guns everywhere is to take down a tyrannical government, well, you're not going to do that with handguns, so you'd have to open it up to, you know, bazookas, RPGs, surface-to-air missiles, you know, missile batteries, artillery.
This is my point, and I'll get going. I challenge that bit of dogma that says an armed population will not have a tyrannical government over it, because I don't know. You'd have to explain Saddam Hussein's Iraq to me, because from my understanding, I could be wrong about this, and I will accept correction. Everyone in Iraq under Saddam Hussein had an AK.
Oh yeah, they're literally cheaper than a loaf of bread.
And it didn't make life so exciting when the Americans showed up. the same difference in this country, as far as I know, and again I accept correction. African Americans in the South were always allowed to have guns because, you know, you're in a rural area, you need to hunt to supplement your diet. They always had guns, firearms, shotguns. Didn't help much when it came to protecting their rights. Never became an issue of like the African black people saying, okay, good, we got guns, we can claim our rights now. Never happened.
Yeah, they still couldn't use the right drinking fountain. They still couldn't
right. So
sit at the front of the bus, and they still couldn't vote in a lot of areas.
Yeah, so I question that whole line about, well, you know, the armed population will be able, well, you know, you can't have a tyrannical government if you have an armed population, because there's examples all over the place that that's not true. It's
well, no, most
not true.
slogans or conventional wisdom, you know, like if it's concise enough for a bumper sticker, it's usually bunk.
Yeah, so and I just hate, and I also, I really suspect people who think they're going to get a gun. I have to confess, it's horrible of me. But last night I went to see Red Dawn. Okay,
the new one.
Yeah, I had to see the new one. I saw the original one when it first came out in the movies in the 80s. I said, well, I have to see this one. Okay.
The first Red Dawn, I mean, was completely implausible, but it was great, escapist shtick. I kind of put it up there with like Last Starfighter, Tank, and you know, there's just the type of movie they don't seem to make anymore. And I'm not saying that they were great. It's no sort of timeless classic, but
the new one they tried to tweak up with a little bit more plausibility, but ultimately it falls apart because there's only one country in the world that can send an army around the world, and we be them.
Yeah, you're living in it.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, Bradshaw, I gotta go. I just wanted to talk about that. Thanks.
All right, keep your powder dry. Not gun people actually say that to one another. Is that? I don't know. Is that like a gun person's secret handshake, or?
That would have been something like when people regularly use muzzle loaders.
Oh.
Probably most people, unlike me. I have a muzzle loader, but I don't even use, I sometimes use loose powder. I usually just use powder pellets.
Now, I've made black powder. Does that count?
Well, and that's part of my concern with not being able to undo the technology.
I don't have the answer. I'm not standing on high here, but my ears perk up and I go when the first response is we shouldn't talk about it.
No, I'm comfortable having a response about it. I would disagree with your first point that it was a mass shooting. 3 people doesn't seem like a mass. I mean, that's 3 people.
How many shots do you get? Being a bad shot doesn't reduce the severity.
I don't know where was the shooting at and how many people were present.
At a mall outside. It
was an attempted mass shooting. Okay, I'll concede there. Fair enough. But he's
a 22-year-old kid. Didn't, according to the first reports, they just identified him a couple hours ago to the public.
Did they kill him?
He killed himself.
Oh well. At least took care of taxpayer money for us.
Well, and this is another part of it. What changed so that, instead of punching your own ticket, you decide I must go out in a blaze of glory?
I think that has to do with desensitization. I think we see a lot of violence on TV, and we think it's no big deal. And
I've seen a lot of violence on TV.
You're not a psychopath.
But
the problem,
no signs that this guy was either.
But the problem, clearly he was, though, right? I mean, let me run this through. Do normal, sane people kill people in that fashion?
I think normal, sane people, yes, kill people. But generally, there's a connection.
Yeah, I'm saying in that fashion.
Mitigating.
They don't walk into a mall and start shooting people they don't know.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so you would say that's the act of an insane person?
At that moment.
Okay, at that moment, he was insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think every human being has, that breaking point.
We can agree or disagree on that. I mean, there's been people that have lived through horrible situations that haven't resulted to that.
I didn't say it was a close breaking point. Some are closer than others, but everyone's got one.
Again, I think people have died in situations where something like this never crossed their mind. So I don't know that everybody has a breaking point. this guy did. I'll agree there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an insane guy doing something insane, and you can't take your experiences and go, well, because it never affected me, then it couldn't have possibly affected him, because that's not true necessarily. The violent.
What do you go back? What do you mean by it didn't affect?
You
me?
You can't say, well, because it didn't affect me, it didn't affect him, because you're not him and he was insane. And since you're not an insane person, you don't know what affected them. I'm saying the general population probably can handle the violence or the gore or all the stuff we have and take it at face value. Some of it's for shock value. Some of it, like what's the guy that did the Kill Bill movies? Tarantino.
Yeah.
His are kind of comical. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, it's over the top.
Yeah, it's over the top,
ultra violent.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like, squirting like ketchup packets out of the person's neck. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. Most people can handle that. An insane person maybe can't. And this comes down to perhaps we should watch what we're putting out there.
But that's the same argument like the prohibition. You and I can go out and have a couple drinks. There are people who can't, and their life spirals.
I understand that logic.
Downward.
And so we either live with the consequences that for the masses we allow this freedom knowing this is going to happen, or we do a prohibition and make it impossible for it to happen and deal with the consequences that come from there, which would be that the criminals would become emboldened. I think the exact same thing would happen if we outlawed guns, is the criminals would be the only ones with them.
Well, certainly the Wild West wasn't the safest place on earth, and everyone was walking around with 6 shooters on their hip.
No.
Ron, on the phone, mentioned Iraq, which was certainly not a safe place.
I would actually challenge...
Any means, and they've got AK-47s all over the place.
But who has them? Is it
families? This is one of the problems when they do the nighttime knock, search houses. You find the AK.
Yeah, well,
because all these houses.
But there's a difference between an armed house in Iraq and a militant house in Iraq. The militant house in Iraq doesn't just have an AK. They've got surface-to-air missiles.
But they are armed, and if the argument is an armed society is a polite society, we have examples that say that's not true.
But the problem is it's not an evenly armed society. I would agree. I don't think that that's necessarily what's going to restrain people or restrain a tyrannical government. It could be a factor, but I don't think it's... I would agree with Ron.
Why can't we just say that... Much like the 3/5 compromise, perhaps the Second Amendment is an idea that's utility has been surpassed by society.
Because I don't think that you should disarm the people.
We don't worry so much about the quartering of soldiers in homes anymore. That is an archaic relic of the past.
Until we get invaded.
No one from Fort Bragg is going to show up at your house and say, "I'm taking over your third bedroom." Can I sleep on your couch?
The difference is, though, it's archaic because nobody's attacked America in hundreds of years. That doesn't mean, and I mean tried to invade, not just attack, but tried to invade America in what, since the Revolutionary War? Yeah, something like that. So
they burned the White House.
Yeah. So we've got that, but that doesn't mean that won't happen again, or those are unwise laws. Second of all,
but
a lot of the gun rights stuff.
Hold on. You think if the the North Koreans come over in some sort of Predator style speedboat,
sure,
that the Army's going to come knocking on our door saying we're taking over your split level condo?
You know what?
We have basis for this sort of thing, but that is in the Constitution. That was big enough to be put in the Bill of Rights.
But if the need arose, I would want them to have that ability.
Well, no, the Constitution says they don't.
Well, I understand that.
That's a constitutional right to not have soldiers quartered in your home.
I understand.
And it was seen as so important.
I'm not talking about the soldiers. I'm saying I would want the homeowner to have that right to say no.
Well, I mean, you even think that's going to happen is absurd.
Why
would they put them there and not
But if it did, I would want them to have that right to say no.
And not to mention they have their own, homes. They live places.
The problem is, though, you're assuming in that attack situation, and I'm not a military guy, but maybe the base is knocked out or is no longer safe, or it's what's been captured.
Get to the bigger point, though, is that right was seen on par with, like, the right of free speech.
Sure. I understand it was much more common there, and we're outside of that. But part of this also...
Why isn't the Second Amendment as equally a relic?
Because the Second Amendment covers not only a tyrannical government, but it also covers man-on-man crime. And maybe you're right. I'm going to concede here and say, I can't fight off the government. I don't have quite as many guns as they have. I don't have the quality or the firepower they do. But I have what you have. And if you come to my house and you try to lay siege to my house, that I can protect myself from.
If I bring my battering ram and ballistas and trebuchets, you'd fight me off. You would have...
If you came to my house intending to do my
pots of hot oil and...
You know what? If you came to my house intending to do me or my family harm, one of us would not live to see the next morning.
Why hasn't, Britain or Japan...
Britain has got horrible crime rates. Talk to anybody in Britain, they hate it. But plus, they still have hunting rifles. It's not like they're entirely disarmed.
No, it's the handgun that is a particular...
But you know what? A shotgun would be my weapon of choice. What I would pick almost any day...
You and Rage Against the Machine.
Well, but a shotgun, first of all, the most recognizable sound in the world is a ch-ch.
Yep.
Okay? And nobody misunderstands what that is. I would say a 5-year-old child.
No, in fact, I believe there's some money to be made just having a device that makes that sound in a loud enough way through the house.
So
if it's that they're ransacking downstairs and you're upstairs, like, get the bleep out.
So the shotgun would be first of all, that would be my weapon choice because it's a short range weapon. You're not going to fire it into your neighbor's house on accident because that's a big concern. Something you should keep in your mind when you're firing a handgun, especially in close quarters in a house. If it passes through the body, is it going to go through the wall and kill the person sleeping in the house next door?
And that's a big one in apartment buildings where that actually happens.
Oh, I know. I'm being serious. I'm not. Yeah. I'm getting into.
That's real.
We're having the real conversation. People say it's too soon. I'm laying out my case. So I'm not so like my handgun isn't the gun I would use anyway. The gun you're trying to take from me is the one that sits in the case and gets polished.
Why have a handgun?
Because I like the thing. It's cool and it's fun to go shoot. I have no intention of ever shooting anybody with it. If any gun in my house I own with the thought that it could potentially be used for real protection, it would be my double-barreled Stagecoach shotgun.
A handgun is far more likely to be used against you. Well, accidentally by a member of the family or in a suicide. Far more likely than to take down a bad guy. How about this? The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You just got to keep them on your property.
I think...
If you're out in public with a gun, then we put you away for 50 years.
No, I think it should be maintained on your person. I have no problem with... I don't have a problem... Like, I know you guys get really nervous when you see guns, but I don't. It doesn't bother me.
They antagonize the situation. That's why people wave them in other guys' faces.
But when you wave it in somebody else's face, you're committing a crime, and I agree with you. Let's enforce that law, which is there, and that would be assault with a dangerous weapon, and it carries a minimum sentence.
I'm
fine with raising it up. I'm fine saying
sentence is, so over the top.
I think it's like 7 years right now. I think if we raised it up to 25, 30, something ridiculous to where you didn't even have bullets in the gun, but you waved it in their hand, or maybe it was a plastic gun. I don't care. If you use something that looks like a gun in some kind of criminal way, like that, a flagrant criminal way, not they decided that you didn't have the right to pull your gun out in a gunfight, but a flagrant, you've waved it and you're trying to rob, I have no problem sending people to prison for the rest of their life. That you can't do that. You're threatening somebody's life. You're liable to get shot and killed yourself doing that, because if you wave a gun in my face, for instance, I'm going to assume you're going to shoot me. And when I've taken that...
Well,
that's a fair assumption, isn't it?
That's exactly the way our peace officers are taught, that if it's
pointed at you, you shoot him.
Well, no, if it's drawn it's a threat. It's that person's going to shoot me. You don't even, reach into deep into a pocket or reach behind you.
So I'm with you on that. Let's enforce
assume
these laws and maybe even strengthen those up. I don't have a problem with somebody having it on their protection. First of all, a little old lady is a vulnerable person. If she's alone in the world, let's say that she's 65 years old, so she's not like decrepit, but she's older. She's up in there in years. She doesn't have any family in town. She's by herself. Why would you want her to walk around unprotected in the city? I think it'd be perfectly fine for her to have a gun. Now, I don't want a senile lady with Alzheimer's, but
now this is going to be crass and insensitive, but no offense, but I've seen them drive, and I don't want them shooting bullets all over the place. Well, especially if they're feeling scared and paranoid and anxious.
Most gunfights happen within 7 feet, and I am perfectly fine with about anybody pointing any gun they want at 7 feet and hitting their target.
I don't know, man. I've seen too many YouTube videos of women like getting knocked over and kids falling backwards from shooting guns.
Well,
that's a real thing that happens.
I understand
on a shooting range,
but usually they're shooting a 50 cal bigger.
No.
They're not shooting little 38s. They're not shooting what they would
your
carry.
Your preferred shotgun, I've seen that.
My preferred shotgun would knock somebody on their butt because it's a 12 gauge double barrel. It would, and it's loaded with deer shot, so it would definitely.
Your little Saturday night special probably isn't going to knock anyone over. But
my 357 still give a good kick, but that's besides the point. You match the gun to the person, so that's an irresponsible salesperson. That's poor training. I am fine with a little bit of training being required.
The problem is that I'm now liable for that person being a bad salesman. I'm at risk because
I think we involve training. The one thing I know, and a lot of my gun rights friends are going to yell at me about this later, I think the one mistake we made in this recent gun law change that happened in Iowa isn't the shall carry part, but it's we got rid of all the training required. And I liked that you had to go shoot and be competent. In fact, I would be okay with you having to go shoot with the gun you were allowed to carry and be restricted to that gun.
I would sign off on that.
I think that's a reasonable thing to ask because, when we think about like the Batman shooting, you got everybody that thinks they're Bruce Wayne or whatever, the expert crackpot.
There were actual soldiers there. And you know what they did? They hit the deck.
Yeah, which is a smart thing to do, particularly since they were unarmed.
But
even if they had guns, in that scenario, somebody's got to be able to shoot a pretty tight target. And so I think that if you're going to say to people in this situation you could respond, then you want to make sure that they're capable. And so I don't think having a little training and being, when we don't let people fly planes without being assigned a plane.
Or even, to drive a car, you have to exhibit minimum proficiency.
And it's per class of car. You can't just drive a semi because you got a car license. I don't have a problem with a graduated license. Like, you went and shot with a 38, so you're licensed in 38 9 mils.
I think that would be something. The problem is that even bringing that up, gun people would absolutely lose their minds.
That's because usually what happens in concessions, and you got to agree here, when we start having concessions given, usually you give anything at all, and you end up having to give twice as much. It's better to sit over here and say,
inevitable slippery slope.
Well, they do. Okay. And,
we've already established that the more paranoid you are, the higher likelihood that you're going to arm yourself because the world's out to get you.
They do believe that they also, a lot of these guys, the same guys you're talking about that are going to be unreasonable having this conversation, own a lot of gold, listen to a lot of Glenn Beck, and probably have food storage, and probably have half their guns buried somewhere on some kind of property that isn't directly listed to them in case they need to retrieve them.
Yeah, see, these are the things that worry me because I don't know.
And those people kind of worry. In the back of my head, part of the reason I want to be a gun owner is because I know they're going to be a gun owner, and I don't mean they're going to be a gun owner until it's illegal. I mean they're going to be a gun owner, and so I want to make sure that I have protection against them as well.
I don't know. The rest of the first world gets by without as many guns as people.
Well, but part of that's just our culture. It's the problem is it's a little too late.
Okay, but human sacrifice was a part of many cultures. That doesn't make it right or good or a solid idea or a good way to get the crops to grow.
First of all, gun ownership isn't bad. Second of all, without a God, I don't see how human sacrifice is bad. I mean, if you have a whole civilization that claims that their God is pleased by killing people, and they know that, and they sacrifice themselves, what's morally wrong with that?
Well, generally take some sort of deity to go, this seems like a good idea.
Well, but what is morally wrong with a religious institution that allows for human sacrifice? I mean, I think it's wrong, but I have a basis. You don't.
I believe that killing people is wrong.
And why do you hold that?
I don't want to be killed.
Okay, but they live in a culture where they say that the best thing in the world you could do is be sacrificed to an idol for the people.
Yeah, and this is why I don't believe that all cultures are inherently great. And
I understand. I'm just
when you
trying
lose
to
a
establish,
sporting event, you shouldn't be killed
because you think something. Your brain fizz. I mean, you're just Stardust fizzing against other Stardust, and what's the problem with Stardust eating other Stardust or killing other Stardust? I don't understand.
Because I'm a sentient, separate being.
But you're Stardust.
Yeah, and you know what? Through that, I have achieved sentience. I am part of a species that not only exists in the universe, but is potent enough.
But you have
to know what kind of universe we're in and to contemplate.
But you have no moral basis to judge somebody else's religion whose philosophy got them to we should sacrifice people.
That should be so precious that we don't.
Why should life be precious? We're just Stardust. It's a giant cosmic accident.
But we're not just stardust. You can go out into the cosmos and find just piles of stardust. And by the way, it's a lot different than we are, and a lot less hungry, a lot less interesting to speak to.
I understand, but see, now you're borrowing from my argument. If we're just stardust,
but I'm not arguing we're just stardust.
But
it's what we're made of.
We're made of stardust.
But if I make a Lego Death Star, it's not just Legos; it's a Lego Death Star.
If we're just made, and we aren't specifically designed by a creator with purpose, then why does it matter if we kill each other?
Because again, I don't want to be killed.
But why does your opinion matter?
Because
in the scheme of things, does your opinion matter at all?
Through the tens of thousands of years that we humans have wandered the face of the earth, we have figured out that it is better, more profitable, easier for us to band together and be that hunting and gathering.
I don't know. I mean, if you ask people today, it's like doom room. They're blowing each other. People killed each other at this election because they were so scared of President Obama. So why do you think that it's better now than what those people had? Those people had prosperity. Now technology's advanced, but there was rich people, and they were happy in general.
I'm not saying they were stupid. I think your average Roman was as smart as you or I, and
probably more so.
With a little background, could operate your iPad just fine. It's not like there were a bunch of,
well, they're in different contexts. I understand that our electronics are different. They would look at this board and
they could figure out how to drive a car.
But they're not IQ-wise.
Thanks to their religion, they would probably think you were some sort of demon witch and they should kill you.
But in the context, if you were driving a car around 2,000 years ago, you would have to have been some kind of demon witch because they didn't exist.
Yeah, that's how that was their understanding.
So they wouldn't interpret us as gods because A, we weren't there, and B, that didn't happen.
Well, yeah, if you just transported, Og the caveman here.
But my question is, how do you account for that morality that you're trying to express here?
That's the evolution of society. That's understanding that when we band together, we can get more done, we can be safer, we can be more prosperous.
And how do you account for that, though? I understand that's true. But
they're existing.
But how do you account for the logic that drives us to there without God?
What do you mean, how do I account? Why does my dog understand that he's warmer sleeping under the blanket?
Because he's a creation of God.
On the floor.
Because he's a creation of God, and he has a basic logical reasoning ability.
Then who gave him the reasoning to want to eat his own poop and vomit?
That would also be your dog. He's hungry. Probably should feed him more.
But who gave him the inspiration to do that?
He did.
So God gave him the good stuff, and he came up with the poop eating.
Oh, sure, God gave him the poop eating. That's part of what they do.
See, if I said that, it would be considered incredibly insulting.
That's fine. I don't. But see, I don't. It's like you can't call black people certain names. I'm a Christian. I can say whatever I want, right? Isn't that the rule? God's in control of that. What I'm saying is your logic and reasoning is only based off empirical evidence that you yourself have kind of taken and looking at.
Well, and I stand
you
on
can't
the
account,
shoulders
and you
of
can't account,
giants.
and you're standing on the shoulders of men who I might add, a lot of the guys that started some of the philosophies behind what you are a proponent of, even if it's watered down and removed and refined, were tyrants. Mussolini.
What do I have in common with Mussolini?
You're a communist. You're raging. You are.
Then what?
You're socialist.
I argue that the workers should own the means of production.
I'm saying
there should be. I have nothing of the sort.
You like I said, you're watered down.
I'm a smart capitalist who understands
you're not a capitalist. You're a socialist with capitalist tendencies.
Then I think you don't know what socialism means.
No, I do understand what socialism.
Define socialism.
Define socialism. Socialism is a society that exists where the common good is reached through working together, right?
No, not quite. But understand that we do have some elements in our society that are socialist. We don't
absolutely
want to be, absolute.
I don't want to be
laissez-faire.
I don't want to be an island. The problem is we're arguing from different sides. I'm a capitalist that believes that some elements of a socialist society aren't that bad.
By the way, so do I. Now, we disagree on where those lines go, which is why we have political arguments about them. But we're coming from the same place. We disagree with where the lines are and where they should be.
I don't think we're coming from the same place at all. I mean, that's the difference. I believe in a God. I believe that part of my rights as a human come from that God, and you believe they come from America and your ability to logic and reason. And I don't think so.
I think it comes from experience. I think it comes from
experience.
Rational.
I don't. First of all, I would argue that a lot of your stuff isn't rational.
You disagree with it.
Well, I would argue that's not rational. You would argue
your ideas are better in this.
You would argue that my belief in a God that's 2,000 years old plus that you've never seen proof of is irrational. Would you not?
I think by definition it's irrational.
Okay, so I can say you're irrational, and you can say I'm irrational.
What beliefs of mine do you believe are irrational?
The belief that you have no God.
Well, where's the empirical evidence for this?
The empirical evidence? How can you decide you need empirical evidence? Because you use a thing called logic and reason, right? How do you account for logic and reason without God?
Well, isn't belief the suspension of logic and reason? And just, I'm going to believe.
Could you be wrong about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how much knowledge do you think you have in the universe?
Not hardly any.
Can we say 1% just to round up?
Oh, God, not even close.
Okay, but we'll round up to 1% just for the argument's sake. If there was something in that 99% that proved you're 1% wrong, could you be wrong about everything you claim to know?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you can be wrong about everything, and you have no ability to account for anything without knowing somebody that knows everything, and I'm saying that's God.
But you're claiming you don't have all the answers. I have all the answers. I have God.
I'm not claiming I have all the answers. I'm claiming I have one answer. That one answer is an absolute truth, so I can claim to know one thing. That's all I'm claiming to know, and that is there's God.
But there's no proof or backup for it. It's your belief. I'm going to suspend my logic and reasoning.
But your logic and reasoning takes 0 plus 0 and creates this. I can't show me how that's not irrational.
Well, no one's
I have
nothing and nothing
in my nothing in my hands. Let me know when something appears.
Well, there's all sorts of stuff.
No. I mean like floating above it.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff.
But where'd that stuff come from?
Everything from EM radiation.
Let's say above my hands were two vacuums void of anything. Okay. When exactly would a world form?
That's probably not going to.
Okay. Well, I would say you're right. It wouldn't. It couldn't. It's mathematically impossible, which is the exact same thing I would say about your account about how the world came to be. It's mathematically impossible.
But we have evidence that backs it up. Everything from background radiation
would you agree that
galaxies moving away from one another. The evidence backs it up.
The evidence can't support the original.
I didn't see OJ stabbed Nicole Brown Simpson, but that's where the
How
evidence
did the
leads
matter
me.
get here? You can have evidence of how everything else evolved. I don't care about that. I'm not even addressing that.
But by ignoring that, you're ignoring the basis of the argument.
I'm not ignoring the basis of the argument. I'm saying that you can't account for that matter, Bradshaw, at all. Okay? That is the basis of your argument, is that we evolved. Fine. We evolved. How did we get here? How did the evolution start? At what point, and if you bring in a Big Bang, I'm going to ask where the materials that the Big Bang was created from, came from.
The singularity is the best answer we have right now, based on the evidence at hand.
But I'm telling you, that's even 1 plus 0 equals 1. We would never have expanded. You need two things to combine together to make anything more than 1.
That's not true.
Okay, what 0 plus 1 equals?
Okay, but we're not talking about basic addition and subtraction here.
We are, though.
We're talking about abstract physics.
You're talking about trying to make something out of nothing, which is impossible.
But no one's arguing that it came out of nothing.
Oh, yes, you are. Because it needed a creator, and you're denying the existence of a creator. It needed something outside of itself to create it.
I disagree with the belief that, the old man with the beard...
I don't believe in an old man with a beard either. I don't know where you get that. I think he's probably a young, handsome guy. All
right, Joseph Smith, whatever, whoever,
it's
drops
not really
the hammer and says, "Turn on the lights."
God isn't really to be characterized in a human form. Jesus Christ is. We're not even to where you believe in God yet. So, I just don't. I don't see the basis of your argument. So, back to the gun thing really quickly. I just don't see how you think this immorality is so wrong without a God.
Because it doesn't take a God to believe in, be excellent to one another. That just takes Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
That is
the
true.
golden rule existed before Jesus.
But why is life precious if it's an accident?
Well, and this is something I think a lot of believers don't understand. You're all looking forward to what's next, with the afterlife, and finally things will be great, which is a great message to tell people when they're suffering. It's a good recruitment tool.
Sure.
The flip side to that is, this is all you got. Make the most of it.
How am I not making the most of it? I'm a business owner. I'm a family man.
I'm not arguing you're not.
I agree that there's some people that are taking this out as an insurance plan, and I think they'll be very shocked at the end. When they find out that their insurance plan mentality doesn't pan out. But
I got more guts than Pascal.
I guess.
I think whatever happens when you die, because I don't know. The only thing I know
is you're living in Plato's cave.
Is I got this.
Plato's cave.
And my job is to
is there meat hanging around everywhere in this?
How do I know that you're not just a shadow on the wall?
That's a good question. Without God, you don't.
Even with God, if you are, and it doesn't make a difference to me, what do I care?
That's a good question.
Why should it matter if my life is going to be the same?
Well, your life's not going to be the same.
How do I know the color green you see is the same one I see?
We don't.
What if CAT actually spells dog?
It doesn't, but we don't know that the colors...
You ever seen Nerds in Paradise? Revenge of the Nerds 2?
No.
Oh, when Ogre gets stoned with the nerds.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Missing out on the fun stuff. We'll argue
we'll argue later.
The beginning of the universe.
We're only 10 minutes over.
Yeah. All right, I got to scoot. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 1:30. Email radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Twitter.com/radiobradshaw. Go to thebradshawshow.com and don't forget to show your work. See you fine folks tomorrow. Until then, be good and be excellent to one another.